Welcome back to another episode of the Less is More Sports podcast. Matt, it is great to be back again. And we got to start this show with some very exciting news. For the first time since 2009, my St. X Tigers are 6A state champs in football after defeating Mayo 31-21 last night. So obviously, I'm in a great mood. Shout out to my alma mater. And of course, Matt, this is why people need to start listening to us. We predicted at the beginning of the college football season that Cincinnati was going to the college football playoff, and they are officially in. Shout out to the Bearcats. And that is why people need to pay attention to us.
It's a good day to be right. It really is. So congratulations to Cincinnati. They finally have broken the glass ceiling of the college football playoff for the group of five, and they deserved it. They got all the lucky breaks they needed. They got everything to pan out perfectly, and I know there's going to be a lot of complaining about it, but Notre Dame was the closest team, and they beat Notre Dame. And that's the bottom line. You got to beat the best to be the best. Cincinnati did that. They did it on the road. They did it at Notre Dame. And if you're going to complain about that, if Cincinnati can beat Notre Dame, then let me tell you something. Alabama can beat Notre Dame easily, too. It doesn't matter who that is. The 1-4 matchup is always a slaughter. Enjoy the narrative and get over yourselves. Baylor's not going to beat Alabama. Oklahoma State's not going to beat Alabama. Notre Dame's not going to beat Alabama. Cincinnati probably won't beat Alabama. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the narrative. Enjoy the run. Enjoy sports history instead of complaining that it's not your name brand team you can buy at Walmart.
I think personally this is good for college football because this proves that the college football playoff is open to not just the select Power Five and that a team outside of there has a chance to make it. However, I will say that 1-4 matchup between Alabama and Cincinnati is going to be very important going forward. Reason being, because if Cincinnati comes in and they get obliterated, the committee is going to be less likely to want to take the chance on an unpower 5 team going forward. But I'm not saying they have to win, Matt, but I will say they have to come in and at least play respectably. Then the committee will more likely be like, okay, if we have an undefeated unpower 5 team, we are more likely to put them in going forward. But definitely, I'm just happy that that's probably one of the best predictions I've ever made, and it came true, and it's awesome. I'm so happy. And of course, I am so happy for a former St. X grad, Desmond Ritter, and he had a phenomenal game. It was just, oh man, I'm excited. But that is not the overall topic.
No. And I'd like to point out to everybody that the average margin of victory in the 1-4 ball game, which has featured Oklahoma and Notre Dame the past 2 years, has been 21 points. So Cincinnati doesn't even need to keep it close. We're just going to judge them a lot harder if they lose by 21 for some reason. So whatever. But on to today's topic.
So Matt, I don't know about you, but sometimes I even get more excited, not necessarily when the games are being played, but when all the behind-the-scenes actions start going on. And this year, more than any, has been one of the craziest coaching carousels that I can remember in recent memory. And we got an absolute bombshell dropped on us when Lincoln Riley decided to go to USC and become the new head coach of the Trojans. Now, here's what's funny about that, Matt. The rumor all season long was that LSU and Lincoln Riley were talking. And the day before going to USC, Lincoln Riley at a press conference makes it very clear that he is not going to LSU. However, he didn't lie because it's not that he didn't go to LSU. But he did not say that he was not going to USC. He did not say that he wasn't leaving Oklahoma. So he didn't lie. Wordplay is key there, my friend. But
he told the truth.
Yes, one of the biggest bombshells, and it has been one after another. But Matt, Lincoln Riley going to USC, does this mean the Trojans are back?
Yes. I mean, there's no other way of saying it. And even today, Lincoln Riley stays winning because one of his biggest rivals is gone now. Mario Cristobal, he's gone to Miami. There's nothing left for him in the Pac-12 to be afraid of. Utah is still there. Kyle Whittingham is still a good coach. but he's got LA, he's got the Sun, and he's got a lot of Oklahoma recruits who are going with him to USC. And when your top rival loses their head coach and offensive coordinator, you have already a clear shot to the playoff because you still get, if you're USC, you are in a major conference, you get to play in the Pac-12, you get to play Notre Dame as your rival. That's going to be a fun matchup next year between two first-year head coaches at their respective schools. But yeah, I look at it already. The Pac-12 has not floundered. It's been kind of wishy-washy with who's going to win every year. Oregon will sometimes have a dynasty, but even then this year, Utah put an end to that. You've had Washington was good for a while. We haven't had a really good USC team in a very long time. And no disrespect to Clay Helton. He did a wonderful job with what he was given. Not wonderful, but he did the best with what he could do. But he's not got the pedigree that Lincoln Riley does. When you say that, you're thinking of a guy who's got great offensive minds everywhere, who's coached quarterbacks who win trophies and succeed in the NFL. I mean, I don't see how you can't pick USC to be one of the favorites, not only in the Pac-12 going forward, but to be in playoff consideration on this day next year, because that's how quick I think they can turn around with all the recruits they're going to get from Lincoln Riley's time in Oklahoma, all the transfers they're going to get with the new transfer rules. They already have quarterbacks for 2023, and now you're giving him, and you're trading Norman, Oklahoma for sunny Southern California and the pedigree of the Rose Bowl and the chance to play in a college football playoff and the chance to sign a national letter of intent in Los Angeles, California, where you could be a superstar on and off the field. There is no question that USC is going to be back, and they are going to instantly love this decision. And I can't think, if you're Lincoln Riley, of a better place to be in college football than with a program that's hungry and has the pedigree to win.
Absolutely. And as we've talked about many times on this podcast, USC is one of those teams that college football just seems better when they're good. Like with Miami, well, hopefully they're back now, which we'll get to them in a second, but hopefully they're back under the Cristobal regime. But I mean, it's going to help Riley a lot, like you alluded to, that a lot of his 2023 recruiting class is already decommitted from Oklahoma and going to follow him to USC. None bigger than five-star quarterback Malachi Nelson, who, let me tell you, can play. But Riley, yes, they're getting absolutely a great coach, and Riley had one of the best stretches in Oklahoma, who is a powerhouse in college football. Think about that. Had one of the best winning percentage in school history, and he fits that mold that you're looking for, that kind of Sean McVay started, that offensive guru to actually kickstart a program. But before we get into some of the other coaching moves, I will say that Riley, he jump-started one of the craziest, not only the craziest coaching carousels we've seen in a while, but now the transfer portal is what's going to absolutely take off. Back-to-back years now, Matt, think about this. The transfer portal has reached 2,000 players in back-to-back years now, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, obviously 1 year with COVID, now this year in large part because of the coaching carousel. Some of these notables include former OU quarterback Spencer Rattler, former Nebraska quarterback Adrian Martinez, former UCF quarterback Dylan Gabriel, and former Tennessee running back Tyon Evans. Matt, with all these coaches and transfers going to different places next year, how is this going to impact the college football landscape?
I mean, I don't really even know how to say that because I feel like it explains itself in a lot of ways. I mean, someone is going to get a guy we both thought was going to win a Heisman Trophy at the start of this year. Now, I don't know where he's going to go. Probably not USC, but I mean, that's a good pickup for somebody, whether it be in Oregon and SMU. You know, it doesn't really matter where he ends up because you're going to get a guy who a lot of people thought was a Heisman Trophy contender. The transfer portal, and, you know, we see it in basketball all the time, how much one guy coming in can transform an entire roster. You know, and football is even more of a team sport than that, but there are still a lot of chances for you to get a game-winning guy. I mean, just over the past week here in Louisville, we had the big talk about Malik Cunningham and the receiver. Help me out, Les. Who's their receiver who's in the transfer portal now? Louisville's Louisville's number one receiver is in the transfer portal now. And people were wondering if Malik Cunningham was going to be in the transfer portal. And can you imagine if Malik Cunningham decided he was going to jump ship and go to a Cincinnati or go to a Notre Dame, that would be seismic. So, I mean, it's hard to overstate just what kind of talent you can get. Now, I do admit for every great story, you do have a Tate Martell and or a Gunnar Kiel, if you remember those names, if you've been watching. Guys who just bounce from school to school and end up doing nothing. Is it Javian? No, it's not Javian Hawkins.
Are you talking about? Okay, it's Jordan Watkins.
Jordan Watkins, not Hawkins. I mean, that's going to be a big pickup for somebody. Maybe even their in-state rival. You know, UK. He was signed to UK before he could go back. I don't think you can exactly grasp how important the transfer portal is going to be, because you basically have 2,000 free agents. Not even the NFL can claim that. Not even the NFL can say, oh, we've got 2,000 free agents. You can bring in anybody who's unhappy in one situation or who's tired of losing, and the next thing you know, you've got a starting quarterback, you've got a starting receiver, you've got a guy. You can get so many pieces for your team there. And any of these new coaches, you know, and we'll get into the other hires, can say, it's my first year, and I want you to have a first year experience with me in sunny LA, sunny Miami, sunny Norman, Oklahoma, I guess, you know, avoid tornadoes and whatnot. That's more of a Kansas thing. But I mean, we know how impactful transfers can be. I mean, you can definitely build a roster in your first year with guys who, even though they only have 1 year of eligibility, can make a huge difference. You just need bridge guys. You need glue. You've got the future planned out. All you need is get a couple of good guys to help bridge over one tenure to another, and you can still win. You can easily win X amount of games in your first year. You definitely can be in bowl eligibility. You can be in New Year's Six contention with the way the new transfer portal rules work, and I think that's great. I really do, because, you know, even in basketball, we seem to focus on guys who go from, like, Marcus Carr, who goes from Minnesota to Texas. We don't talk about, like, some of the other guys who go from, like, I just saw yesterday, Jawan Puma Pass, former Louisville quarterback. Not Louisville anymore. He's playing in the SWAC championship game for Prairie View A&M. You can reinvent yourself going either way, and that's what's beautiful about the transfer portal.
The last transfer I do want to touch on, because I know the fans want my opinion on this, because if you haven't heard, Matt, one of the biggest names in the transfer portal was third-string Ohio State quarterback Quinn Ewers, who was the number one rated quarterback coming out of high school. Now, I know the fans want to hear my opinion on this because of where he is rumored to go. I, however, do not see him going to Texas. The reason I say that is because Malik Murphy, another quarterback coming in next season, has already went on this big spiel about changing the culture. I feel like Murphy and the Longhorns have too much of a future going forward to where Ewers is going to be involved in that. So I see Ewers going either somewhere like Tech or A&M. But, however, I will say this. If he does decide to go to Texas, what I will learn about Quinn Ewers is that he is not afraid of competition. And those are the type of people that we need. So I love, it would be great because he's a great quarterback, but I don't see it happening. But moving on into some of the other coaching carousel moves, as we alluded to, the Mario Cristobal to Miami move, which that in itself is a very strange situation, because Miami was not only looking for a new coach, Matt, they're looking for a new athletic director.
Who could have been Louisville's. Yeah, it's been a crazy week for Louisville athletics.
It definitely has. And I remember sitting at my spot in Legend Crab where I got the notification that they were going after Clemson's athletic director and Mario Cristobal at the same time. Is it now official that they got Clemson's athletic director too, or have they just gotten Cristobal right now?
It's just Cristobal at the moment, and Jonathan Taylor has just scored another touchdown.
You love to hear it. You'll love to see it. But anyways,
just breaking news into the room.
We got to, but anyways, especially anytime Colts news is brought up, it's always good news. But for the most part, anyways, Mario Cristobal to Miami. So Matt, my first question is: we've been searching, we've been hoping. Is this finally the coach to bring the U back?
Yes. Had to build the anticipation. This guy played for Miami. This isn't like he was an offensive lineman, I'm pretty sure, for Miami during the Miami good years. This guy, the one thing that scares me about Cristobal is that he's definitely leaving the Oregon money, which, Phil Knight and everybody in Oregon was constantly, shoveling money in, all the uniform combos. But I think that Mario Cristobal knows what it's like to be knows what the U stands for. He knows what he wants it to mean. And I think that that's going to help a lot going forward. He's not a guy from Temple. He's another major program guy. Let's not forget, even though they got boat raced twice in 3 weeks, Oregon was still in playoff contention up until that game against Utah. They were in playoff contention with Mark. Was he the coach when Marcus Mariota was there? Or is that
No, that was
that was still Chip? That was still Chip Kelly.
that wasn't Chip Kelly. It was Mark Helfrich.
I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, Mark
Hope he's doing
Helfrich was the offensive coordinator for Chip Kelly when he took him to the national championship in 2010, where they lost to Cam Newton's Auburn Tigers.
What a game that was.
Actually, it was a good game.
Point being that Mario Cristobal hasn't taken a step down really in a lot of senses. He's always in it. He's always been in the Pac-12 race. He's been in the playoff race, which is something that, a guy who rebuilt Temple can't really say, or a guy who the Miami's hired lately can say. And like I said, the guy just knows the U. He knows what he wants to do with the U. Once again, Florida is one of the most fertile grounds in America for finding good young football players and good young talent. And let's be honest, too, about this, Les. He's got an easier road than, I would even say Lincoln Riley in some ways, because of another coaching move we're going to talk about in a minute. But we all saw what the ACC looked like this year. It was hot garbage. And I don't really know if it's going to get any better. I can't tell you. Because, Scott Satterfield's been retained. The only team that might have a come up next year is Clemson. And like I said, they've just lost their defensive coordinator. DJ Ungalele does not look like an all-world quarterback like we thought he was. Justin Ross has gone to the draft. You're going to have a lot of guys. Clemson's going to be missing a lot of pieces next year. And you're in Florida with a fertile ground for recruiting, with name brand recognition, and you're going to tell these South Florida kids whose parents remember the days where Miami was good, which sadly enough, their parents were probably around for the 2002 Miami Hurricanes. That's how old we are. Is they're going to be the guys who are going to be told, hey, you can come with me and we are going to rebuild the U, not just the University of Miami, the U. And that's going to be a huge selling point, just like USC. These are two These are two very good blue blood programs who, when they're good, draw a lot of people. They have a lot of swagger. They have a lot of good players in the areas they're based in. So I think Mario Cristobal is going to be just fine there in Miami, especially with the ACC kind of on a downward trend. I mean, hell, Pittsburgh won the ACC. I didn't even know Pittsburgh had a good team before the season started. And then out of nowhere, Kenny Pickett's juking guys for 40 yards and a touchdown.
He's faking slides.
Against Wake Forest, who Wake Forest has a football team. Who knew? So, Mario Cristobal, he's in a good spot. I can't lie. The people, when I saw all the people from Miami who were like, hell yeah, brother, he's back. That's part of it too. You've got to get an energized fan base, a fan base who believes that you can do the job, who's going to invest in you doing the job, which could come back and bite you in the ass because they're going to expect success right off the bat. But I think that Mario Cristobal can pull that off. I really do. So, yeah, I think that it's going to be a longer road than what USC is going to go through for certain, because USC just, like we've said, they've got everybody in place already because Lincoln Riley's is bringing the farm, he's bringing the homestead, he's bringing the truck from the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma to the promised land of Los Angeles. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of success in South Florida now. I think that this is the best move they can make. The only other guy I heard associated with that job was Lane Kiffin, and we all know what his demons are, that he can be a good coach, but also in the land of vice, what will occur. So I think this was the perfect move for them, getting a guy who knows the U, who knows what the U stands for, who can sell people on South Florida and resurrection. So yeah, great move.
You know what's scary, Matt?
What?
So I really like how Mario Cristobal builds his teams. He starts with the lines and then he works his way out. He builds a stout offensive and defensive line and then works his way out. So he gets offensive line recruits going to Miami. That'll be a huge jumpstart as enough as it is. Not to mention he can keep, as said in a conversation between me and my good friend Matt Spencer yesterday, a lot of that Miami talent goes within 3 counties. Then he is right in the middle of it. And if you recruit that line with that speed, that's going to be some scary U teams. So I like the move altogether, and I think, again, I think it is, as we talked about with USC, they're one of those teams where college football is better when they're back. The U is the number one school that needs to be back. So exactly. But anyways, yeah. So there's nothing else for me to say except for I love the Mario Cristobal move.
We'll
So
see you
anyways.
all next week. Miami and USC are facing off in the college football playoff championship.
Oh, I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. But anyways, as we're going to translate now back to the real quick before we get into some of the other moves about the replacement for Lincoln Riley and Norman, and Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables has finalized a deal with the Oklahoma Sooners and will be the next head coach in Norman. Matt, how do you think he's going to do?
Les, you're finally going to hear me say something negative.
I'm here for it.
I get it, but I also don't. I mean, like Mario Cristobal, this guy's been a coach at Oklahoma before. His defenses are pretty darn good. But Brett Venables, is it really a splashy move for Oklahoma? This guy is a defensive dude. We know how good those Clemson defenses are. Even in a down year like this year, they're still lights out. But when was the last time you heard anybody say, I love Oklahoma defense? Or Big 12 defense? Or, soon to be SEC defense, I guess. Brett Venables is in a very unenviable position right now. He's a defensive-minded guy in an offensive-minded conference right now. And then it's going to change to he's a defensive-minded guy in a defensive-minded conference, but the teams are much tougher all the way up and down. Now, we don't know how the SEC is going to realign when these two guys join, when Texas and Oklahoma join, but I don't know if that's going to be a good solution for Venables. I know he's worked at Oklahoma. I know people love his defense, and everyone's saying the same few words: championship pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
You know what other coach had championship pedigree? Josh McDaniels, everybody who coached for the New England Patriots who left and then came back begging at the altar of Belichick for their job back. That doesn't mean a damn thing. You can have all the championship pedigree in the world. I could have 5 rings on my fingers right now. But if I can't recruit local kids or I can't recruit people to come to Norman, Oklahoma, then they ain't worth crap. They're worth about as much as a ring you would get at Chuck E. Cheese for 500 tokens. I like Brett Venables. I love his defense. I just don't know if he's ready to be a head coach. And like I said, Oklahoma is known for their quarterback play and, every once in a while birthing an Adrian Peterson or birthing a CD Lamb type player. I can't remember the last time Oklahoma really gave us and you can correct me, please correct me, because I don't want to talk out of my ass and say something stupid. I can't remember the last great Oklahoma defensive player we got. Is it Gerald McCoy?
Mm-hmm. That would probably be the closest. Or I'll say he didn't really pan out in the pros, but Phil Stryker was a really good college stud at linebacker, at edge rusher. But yeah, he didn't pan out in the pros. But yeah, Gerald McCoy is probably the most successful recent Sooner defender.
So I like Brett Venables. I like Selin Farrell. I like the defenses he's coached. I'm just not sure if he gives you the impact that you need when you see especially in this hiring cycle, when you see all the other high impact moves that coaches that have been made. This Brett Venables move kind of feels like a stopgap in a way. Like, all right, we got to get somebody in here because all these other huge coaching candidates, including our own, have jumped ship. They're all moving around the country. So I think he's in a very not unfavorable, because you're still at Oklahoma. That's the bottom line. You're still at Oklahoma. They're a blue blood year in and year out. But you also have to deal with expectations that are extremely high in your first year. This isn't USC and the U who have been down, and the second you win 9 games, you're going to be God incarnate. This is a team that was knocking on the college football playoff door just this year and was in it 2 years ago and in it every year. So you're going to have to come in and you're going to have to hit it hard. And you know what else? You just lost all your recruits. They're all going to Southern California. You've lost all your recruits. You're a defensive coordinator in his first job in an offensive conference. And this fan base is going to demand wins right off the bat. So of all the guys we're going to talk about, I think Brett Venables is probably the guy who's going to be feeling the most pressure in his position because you are taking a giant step. This is not going from a superpower to a superpower. This is going from a superpower to a superpower, but you're a step down from your competitors. And I don't mean that to insult Brett Venables, but when you just compare him to like a Brian Kelly or a Mario Cristobal or a guy like Lincoln Riley, you just really can't. So I think Brett Venables, he'll be all right, but he's going to have such a short leash. I don't know how that's going to pan out for him.
Do you want me to tell you why you're wrong?
Yes. Because
Too
we
bad,
need to disagree.
because you're not.
Damn it. We're just going to agree the whole damn time.
Yeah, I don't think we'll agree the whole damn time, but we definitely agree with this one. Here, look, here's my thing on it. I'm not opposed to Oklahoma going from an offensive juggernaut to a defensive juggernaut. You know, I made a prediction and then completely swung and missed and said that Mark Stoops was going to go to Oklahoma, where his brother used to coach. Obviously, he signed the extension and stayed with Kentucky until 2027. So complete swing and the miss on my part. But I'm not opposed to making the switch from the offensive to the defensive juggernaut, because that was the one thing the Lincoln Riley era was missing, was defense.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't opposed to that. My question is, has Brent Venables been a head coach at all? That's my word. Yes, I think his aspiration is a great defensive coordinator. He's one of, if not the best defensive coordinator in college football. Is he a head coach? I don't see it. So not only that, you're losing your recruits. He can recruit defenders. However, that area has so many offensive skill players that are now going to want to go to rival Texas because of that, because they are going to play under an offensive-minded coach. So that being said, I don't like the move. I think Brent Venables' aspirations are to be a great defensive coordinator somewhere.
I would agree wholeheartedly, as I just did. So wonderful. We're agreeing. There will be no conflict on today's show. Have a lovely weekend.
Oh, too early to tell. We're probably going to disagree on a few, but we definitely weren't there.
I think we're going to get one here if we go to the next place. So,
well, which place are you wanting to go? Because let's get this disagreement.
Let's stay in the South. Let's stay in the South and get to the big fish in the room. One of the elephants, and that's I don't understand. I do not understand you, Brian Kelly. Why? Why?
Oh, I don't think we're going to disagree about that either, but continue.
I do not get why you would take a team who was on the cusp. They are still the 5th-ranked team. They were beating Cincinnati away from being in the college football playoff. And you're like, well, I want to beat the best and be the best. So you go to the toughest damn conference that's only going to, in the toughest damn division, that's only going to get tougher in one of the spiciest fan bases in food and people. And you, Brian Kelly, are a sparkling glass of fresh tap water. Why would you do that? Why would you abandon something that's working, something that's resulting in constantly being in the college football playoff? 2 times you've been in the playoff. 1 time you've been in the BCS championship game. You have had very few bad seasons. You're the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. Notre Dame, you've beaten Newt Rockne, for God's sake. And you go to LSU in the toughest division. That division, it's tougher than the NFC something or other. It boggles my mind how you would do this. I want to beat the best. You want to get spanked by Nick Saban by 20 points every year? Fine. I won't stop you. That being said, I don't think he's a bad hire. You just gotta swing for the fences if you're LSU, because who else are you gonna get? Lincoln Riley's turned you down. You might as well go after another big name who's at a school that's not conference affiliated, who might want to prove himself because of some damned blood wish he's got. I don't understand this move for Brian Kelly, but I understand it for LSU because you got to take a shot. You got to try to make an impact move that's going to get the eye of recruits, that's going to get people to think twice about your program, especially after you've lost Lincoln Riley. I mean, Ed Ogeron was almost a brand in and of himself. I mean, how many times have we said "Go Tigers" in a mocking voice like that? It's calling card. But now you've gone up and get. I would prefer to execute my football team. I mean, the personality does not fit. The man himself does not fit. He developed a Southern accent, I guess, by taking an acting class on the plane down to that basketball game. I mean, I get why LSU has to do this. We know LSU loves impact hires. They went out and they got Will Wade. They gave Kim Mulkey a basic moving truck full of money to leave Baylor. So this is the exact kind of thing LSU does, and they just hope it works like it does with the other two. But for Brian Kelly, I don't even know what this is. If this is like him snowbirding, he wants to snowbird down in Baton Rouge and see if he can mess around and win a division title every 4 years. But if the fan base is that unforgiving to Ed Ogeron, who is a hometown boy who brought them a national championship, I can't see how they're going to embrace Brian Kelly the minute he loses to Jimbo Fisher, because he just can't figure out how to out coach those guys. So yeah, I get why LSU did it. I don't understand it at all. I do not understand the move.
This is a common theme that we talk about on this podcast. It's not Brian Kelly is a good coach. LSU is a good program, but the two are not a fit at all. They're about as good of a fit as you alluded to, that country accent that he somehow developed overnight. I always believe that Brian Kelly was born to be the Notre Dame coach. He just has that look. He goes on to be the winningest coach in program history. And that's saying a lot given the prestigious history that Notre Dame has. But I look at him, he doesn't have that Cajun swag that you really kind of need, or that Southern swag that you need to be the LSU coach. Don't be wrong. Do I think he can do a good job? Sure. But I think you alluded to it perfectly. We looked how they embraced a hometown coach that brought a national title. Look, what are they going to do if Kelly starts to struggle? It's going to be just about 10 times worse for me. So we actually do not disagree on Brian Kelly and LSU at all. So we may, I don't know. I'm losing hope that we're going to disagree at some point. But let's see if we disagree. Do what?
We got one big one to go. One big program left who made a coaching decision. So
we're going to go to the team that Brian Kelly just left in Notre Dame, and they brought up defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman to be the head coach. And Matt, I'm going to be honest, I like this move a lot. We agree?
Yes.
Just a little bit. Okay, for those who don't know, let's talk a little bit about who is Marcus Freeman. He began coaching in 2010 as a graduate assistant at his alma mater of Ohio State. He upgraded to linebackers coach at Kent State and Purdue from 2011 to 2015. 2016 became the full-time defensive coordinator for Purdue, and then Cincy from 2017 to 20. In 2021 became the defensive coordinator for Notre Dame, and within less than a year they improved 20 spots in total defense from a season ago. So Marcus Freeman is a young, hip coach that Notre Dame needs to have. Notre Dame needs to have. They're going to lose Brian Kelly. He's going to be able to bring in great, good defensive players in the recruiting cycle. He's going to be able to have a smash mouth defense that's going to win a lot of games. The only question is, can he get some offense going? But I like the hire, and I think Notre Dame, it's good. And I think that I can see this move creating like having some swag about it, just because he is young, just because it is hip.
Yeah.
I like that. And I like that in Notre Dame. Notre Dame is different. They're not a Power 5 team. They're an independent. They always have this different aura about them. And I think this just brings a new level of their swag to the table. So I like the move altogether.
Thus, you're 1,000% wrong. And the biggest thing for me for Notre Dame,
you say right or wrong?
You're 100% right. You are right. You are right. You are correct.
Okay.
And the biggest thing for me for Notre Dame was they kept their offensive coordinator. They don't need to worry about where the offense is going to come from. And, at first this move I was kind of unsure of because, I know Notre Dame's defense improved a lot. I know that this guy came from Cincinnati, and we know how good their defenses were last year, especially in bowl game. And then I saw what happened when they announced him as a coach, and he walked in the room full of players. And just the energy that filled that room when he walked in, that those players had for him and he had for those players. And I was like, yep, this is perfect. He's going to be fine. Those players love that guy. He's vivacious. He's full of energy. He's a shot in the arm from he's miles away from being what Brian Kelly is, which is this old curmudgeony, old school guy. This dude is young. He's fun. He's exciting. He has a smile on his face all the time. And you know what happened the last time Notre Dame brought in a guy from Cincinnati? He became the winningest coach until he went to LSU. So, I mean, they kept their offensive coordinator. They kept their defensive guy and elevated him to a new position. He's young. He's full of energy. The defense is miles ahead of where it could be. This team is on the cusp of the college football playoff this year with a lot of guys coming back. The one thing that I'm scared of is the last time Notre Dame just elevated someone from the inside. That guy was gone within 3 weeks or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think when you have an old but respected brand like Notre Dame, getting a young coach who's a good sports spokesperson for your program is a huge shot in the arm. You're already Notre Dame. You just need a guy who needs to hit. Yeah, it's rejuvenating. You've gone to the spa and gotten a facial if you're Notre Dame. And I think Marcus Freeman is the perfect guy to do that. He has infectious energy about him. And I can't wait to see what he's going to do in the first year. And we know where the offense is going to come from. We know they're always going to be in the top 10 recruiting classes. I have no fear about Marcus Freeman except how the fan base will act if they flounder in their first year, which they play a tough schedule. They play Ohio State. What a first game that's going to be for your coach. And that's really all I'm afraid of. It's just a fan reaction. That's it. Because I think this guy, Marcus Freeman, has such a positive aura about him and has proven his chops every stop he's had with improved defenses. And we already have the offensive thing squared away. He's going to be fine. He's a good fit. He's already there. He's just going to have to build on what Brian Kelly and whoever before him has been doing, and it's going to be fine. Notre Dame's fine. It's a great hire.
We actually do have one more big name program that is experiencing a coaching change, and then I'll go into a couple of underrated moves, and then I'm going to address a coaching situation that is near and dear to one of my teams. But the last big name school that we have notes on right now that's experiencing a coaching change is Florida, and former Ragin' Cajuns head coach Billy Napier is going to be the new Gators head coach. Napier was 39-12 in 4 seasons with the Ragin' Cajuns, including 3 straight double-digit wins. But one of the biggest things that's going to be a factor with Napier's tenure at Florida is that he has experience recruiting in the southeastern part of the country. That's going to be very vital in recruiting for the Gators. But Matt, I'm very, very up in the air about this, and I don't know how you feel about this, because it's one thing to be successful at Louisiana. It's another to be successful at Florida. Do you think that Napier has the potential to be a mid-major coach and be successful at a Power 5 program?
Yeah, but here's why I think that as well. What part of the SEC is he in? Les, can you tell me which division? Which division is he in?
He's in the easy.
He's in the East. He's in the East. One. He's got Georgia. He's got Kentucky some years. Who knows what the hell Tennessee's going to become? They've been up in the air for a decade now. South Carolina, up in the air for a decade now. Vanderbilt. Do I even need to say it? This division is the easier of the 2 SEC divisions, and you already benefit, like we discussed with Miami. You already benefit from being in Florida. You are in Florida. There are people there who are dyed-in-the-wool Gator fans who will tell their kid, you better go there or I'll disown you, regardless of what happens. Now, I'm not going to act like I watch Sunbelt football, and I'm going to put up a bunch of charts with numbers talking about how the Ragin' Cajuns prevented 40% of run passes from Appalachian State in the championship game, because I'm not that obsessed with sports, even though I do this with you. But I think it's possible. I mean, mid-major guys, like we said, Brian Kelly was a mid-major guy pretty much at Cincinnati, even though they were in the Big East. It wasn't Notre Dame. We've seen it happen before. I mean, it's not like mid-major guys do pan out occasionally. And Florida is just such a weird spot to be in, because it feels like now, in spite of their loss yesterday, Georgia has really wrestled that one spot out of Florida's hands. They pretty much dominated that rivalry since Tim Tebow was there, it feels like. So, I mean, that's really your biggest competition is just seeing how good Georgia is year in and year out, and you trying to out recruit Kirby Smart. So, yeah, I really don't have a solid take on this move, but I know when you play Vanderbilt and South Carolina and Missouri, you're at least going to get a couple wins there. I mean, you have Florida State, you got to beat Florida State, and you got to at least beat Georgia once in a while. That's really about it. And we forget that Florida's fan base, too, is really unforgiving as well. Because Dan Mullen, shocking as this is, because it doesn't feel like it happened, had Florida in the SEC championship and then got fired the very next year. So we know that Florida fans, SEC fans are unforgiving. But at the same time, I want to say that, like, I don't know if Billy Napier is going to lose to South Carolina and Missouri the way that Dan Mullen did. It's clear that that Florida program was already partially on fire, and then it just became an inferno when they started losing games. So my jury's still out. I'm hesitant to say he's going to be a bust because he's in the SEC East, but I'm not going to act like Florida is reborn. They're going to the Rose Bowl or Orange Bowl. They're going to the Sugar Bowl. They're going to beat Georgia because that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So it all depends on how much the Florida fan base is going to take from this guy. If they like him, if he's charming, if he's endearing, he may get a couple more years than he would if he was, flat out, unlikable. But I still don't want to say either way he's going to flame out or he's going to be a champion, because I think the answer is going to be somewhere in between.
I think you touched on one point. The key is he's going to have to compete with Kirby Smart in recruiting, and that's what I have the issue with, because Kirby Smart is a very good recruiter. And yes, even though they are in the easier division of the SEC, Florida fans are very unforgiving. Their expectation is to be competing for SEC championships year in and year out. Georgia is the dominant team on that side of the SEC. Recruiting, I don't see him being able to win recruiting battles with Kirby Smart. So I think that it could be in a very similar situation we saw Dan Mullen and the coach before him. So I don't like it. I really don't. So I think that is our first closest to a disagree that we've had so far.
We're just not sure. You're just
not sure. I mean, we agree that we're not sure, but yeah, I guess for similar or different
You're
reasons.
a little bit more negative. I'm a little more positive, but we're just trying to figure it out.
You're a glasses half full guy on this move. I'm a glasses half empty guy on this move specifically. But yeah.
Yeah. But good luck, Florida. You're going to need it, I guess, because Kentucky on the come up. You could be the third best team. I don't know.
And Kentucky fans are telling me that they're going to go 11-1 next year. So Lord help me. Anyways, I'm going to go into anything's possible. But I'm going to go into two coaching moves that I actually thought were very underrated. And this is one that is not talked about at all, but I really like it. And that is former Fresno State head coach Kailyn Deboer going to Washington.
Yes, I was hoping you would say this one. I love this move as a former IU, especially.
Absolutely, because the thing is, he's a winner. He's won at every level from the NAIA to the Big Ten, and he specializes in quarterback play, which should help Washington. That was ranked 113th in total offense in 2021. So I absolutely love Kailyn Deboer to Washington, and I think he's going to have the Huskies on the come up. The only problem is now he's in the same conference as Lincoln Riley. That's the only question.
I still love him. He's still going to win you 7 or 8 games every year, even if Lincoln Riley is dominant. Don't worry, Washington. You're in good hands. You're in good hands with Kailyn Deboer.
I see you might think this is jumping the gun. I see a potential why am I blanking on his name? Washington, I said a similar Chris Peterson-like coaching stint with Kailyn Deboer.
I would agree. I see a lot of similarities.
And I loved Chris Peterson, and I love Kailyn Deboer as a coach. I think he's going to do great things at Washington. Some of those, Chris Peterson was an offensive guru as well, and those Washington teams, especially when they had Jake Browning and all them, and Jacob Eason, were very good offensive teams, and they were competing in the college football playoff. So I think Kailyn Deboer can do some really good things.
I think he can as well.
But another one that's very underrated too is the defensive coordinator for Penn State, Brent Pry, being the next head coach at Virginia Tech. And here is why this move is very underrated, Matt. He was a graduate assistant under legendary coach Frank Beamer. And what I absolutely loved about the hire is in his press conference, he was asked about the keys to his stout Penn State defenses. He just looked at reporters and said, well, where do you think I got it from? Beamer ball is some of the most exciting ball of the early 2000s. Their offenses were always kind of mediocre, but they could always make up for it with scoring on defense. And I absolutely I think Brent Pry is the perfect person to bring in, someone that learned under Frank Beamer and knows the program in and out. So, yeah, I like the move.
Les, I'm going to take this to say something because sports people very rarely admit this. When they got Justin Fuente from Memphis, I thought that was going to turn Virginia Tech into a juggernaut. I really liked Fuente. I thought he was like a hard-nosed, Frank Beamer-like coach, and I was wrong. I was flat out wrong. I admit that. I thought that he was going to end up being like a coach for life type person out there, and it just didn't really didn't pan out. I mean, the first couple years it looked like it might, and then everything started falling apart. So, yeah, I admit it. I was wrong. I thought Justin Fuente was going to be like the coach of the century for Virginia Tech, and I was wrong. So, best of luck to them. I love defensive guys getting jobs, but like I said, like we've talked about many times before, college football is increasingly becoming an offensive league. And just when we think we have a great defensive team in Georgia, they get exposed by Alabama and Bryce Young.
You did it again.
Bryce Petty is going to owe me some restitution for this. I'm putting his name out there after all these years. So, yeah.
You're keeping his name relevant. I think he's got to respect you for that. But, yeah. I actually had a funny feeling about that Alabama-Georgia game because, yes, Georgia has looked like the more dominant team all year long, but this is why Alabama is the dynasty that they are. They aren't just five-star players. They are a five-star culture. Even at times where they don't look as dominant, they know when to bring it. In the SEC championship, you know you're going to get their best shot. You know Bryce Young is going to have a great performance. You know that Alabama and Nick Saban are going to be with prep time. Nick Saban is like Batman with prep time. Come on, guys.
He really is. And that's going to be bad news for Cincinnati.
And before we get into our top five, I do want to talk about the coaching vacancy of my Duke Blue Devils. Matt, you knew it was coming. So after 14 seasons, head coach David Cutcliffe is officially out as the head coach at Duke. In 14 seasons, he went 77-97 with the Blue Devils and is the third winningest coach in program history. He took the Blue Devils to 6 bowl appearances and won 3 of them. The victory over IU, I know you love this game, in 2015 was the first bowl win for the program since 1961. And no, Matt, the field goal was not good. 10 coaches have been interviewed, all Power 5 coordinators. Among the top of the list is offensive coordinator for USC, Graham Harrell, and Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator for Georgia. Those are the 2 that I would like, but it's going to be interesting to see who takes over the helms of Duke, of the all-powerful Duke football.
That guy from Georgia is going to get a lot of offers soon, though, after this year. So I don't know. I don't know how much money Duke is willing to throw out there, but that's going to be a deciding factor, I think, there.
Depends on how much money our basketball program can bring in, how much money we can have to throw around. So
we're going to have a dunk tank with Paolo Banchero and see how many times they can knock him in for like $5.
Just raise money for it.
We're going to have Coach K. You get to throw a pie at his face and see, like, if it hits, you donate $5. If you miss, it's $3. It's going to be like a college fun fair all over again. But that aside, let's do the 5.
Let's do the 5. So Matt and I are going to go into the top 5 coaches that we think are going to have the most success. So Matt, am I going first or are you going first?
I'll go first because I'm going to keep it short, sweet, and to the point because we've already discussed a lot of this. At number 5, surprisingly, I do have Billy Napier just because of playing in the SEC East and just because he's not left any major programs and developed a Southern accent overnight.
Yeah.
Number 4, Marcus Freeman, of course. The reason I put him low is still seeing how that fan base is going to react to like a new defensive-minded coaching style, but they kept the offensive coordinator, and that's going to be great. Number 3 is a school we didn't talk about because they don't currently have a coach because they just lost theirs today. And I have the Oregon opening because even though you're going to be in the same division as Link, well, I don't know, they might be in different divisions. You might be in the Pac-12 North, and you're going to have all of Phil Knight's money, uniforms, and the Oregon Duck at your resources. If they get the right guy, that's a really sexy opening for like an offensive-minded coach who's looking to like test an offense out somewhere else. So the Oregon opening is my number 3. Number 2 and number 1, you can protect those. Number 2 is Mario Cristobal, and number 1 is Lincoln Riley, who I think is going to has the potential to win 9-10 games in his first year. So yeah, that's my top 5.
All right, my number 5, I have Brent Pry. I like the hire. He's a former Frank Beamer graduate assistant, someone who knows the program in and out. At the end of the day, though, Virginia Tech is Virginia Tech. Their ceiling isn't as high, regardless of some of the other programs on this list. Number 4, I have Kailyn Deboer. I'm really high on this move, and I think Washington has a very high ceiling and can be an offensive powerhouse under Deboer in the Pac-12 after being the 113th ranked offense last year, and I think that's something to say. Number 3, I have Marcus Freeman. I think he's almost the young stud is a rejuvenating coach in that program, and I think could go on to do some really good things. Like you said, 1 and 2, you can really flip back and forth, but number 2, I have Lincoln Riley at USC. I do think both teams are back, but I do think Cristobal, being the type of coach that he is that builds from the line and goes out, I think when you combine his line play with that Florida speed is going to be something scary. So that's why I have Cristobal at 1 and with Riley just behind him.
I respect that because they're basically interchangeable.
They really are.
They're both going to be massively successful, and that's going to be the bottom line.
I mean, they're rejuvenating 2 programs that need to be back for college football's sake.
Amen. Please save the sport.
I'll say that's all I got, unless you want to add something.
Well, depending on when this episode comes, whenever you're able to upload this episode, watch the MLB Network at 6:00 because we have something baseball related going on, even if they're in a lockout. Because the announcement for the Veterans Committees, whether they elected anybody, will be announced around 6:00 Eastern Time. So if you're watching this the second it comes out, go Minnie Minoso, go Buck O'Neill, go Tony Oliva, and you know what? Throw in Jim Cat because I love his nickname of Kitty Cat. So, woo, baseball, because it's locked out. So, yeah, that's all I got. So, Les, take it away, buddy.
All right, as always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports YouTube channel. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. And as always, have a great rest of your week.
Watch some sports.